And I started talking to him about her. And then I was done. And I was literally done. Then I talked for about 10, 15 minutes, so I don't know where that footage is. But then the world started to talk about her for 5 or 6 days.
For decades, Kevin Costner has been one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. From powerful Western dramas to emotional sports films, he built a reputation as a strong, quiet leading man who represented a certain image of American masculinity. Audiences saw him as steady, confident, and almost untouchable. But behind the fame and success, his personal life has often been far more complicated than the characters he played on screen. In recent years, especially after his highly publicized divorce from Christine Baumgartner, his private struggles became headline news. At the same time, many people began wondering what life inside the Costner family was really like. That curiosity grew even stronger when his daughter, Annie Costner, decided to open up publicly about her own emotional struggles and about the lessons she learned growing up with a famous father. While her words were not explosive or scandalous, they were honest and revealing in a different way. Instead of exposing secrets, she shared something more relatable: the pressure of expectations, the weight of adulthood, and the importance of finding balance. Annie grew up during the height of her father's stardom in the late 1980s and early 1990s. During that time, Kevin Costner starred in major films like The Untouchables, Bull Durham, and Field of Dreams, before reaching legendary status with Dances with Wolves. At home, however, life was not just about awards and red carpets. Annie witnessed long working hours, constant travel, and the pressure that came with maintaining a powerful public image. She has spoken about how her father worked hard, but always tried to remind his children that family should come first. According to her, he made it clear that no movie role or career success should replace being present for the people you love. Still, growing up in a famous household came with its own challenges. There were expectations to succeed, to behave a certain way, and to handle public attention with maturity. Annie chose not to chase fame in the traditional sense. Instead, she moved behind the camera, building a career as a producer and director focused on meaningful projects, including environmental documentaries. Her path showed that she respected her father's career, but wanted to create her own identity. Recently, Annie admitted that even with a stable career and supportive family, she reached a point in her 40s where she felt overwhelmed. She described it as a midlife crisis, though not in a dramatic way. It was more about feeling stuck, questioning direction, and needing space to think clearly. To reset her mind, she traveled to France, spending time in quiet towns and slowing down her routine. That decision helped her reconnect with herself and return home with new energy. Her openness surprised many fans because it showed vulnerability rather than glamour. It reminded people that even those who grow up surrounded by wealth and fame face the same emotional struggles as anyone else. Kevin Costner's journey to becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars was not instant, and understanding that path helps explain the environment Annie grew up in. Before he became a household name, Costner was a young man with big dreams and no guarantees. After graduating from California State University, Fullerton, he slowly worked his way into acting, taking small roles and struggling like many others in Los Angeles. His breakthrough came in the late 1980s with films like The Untouchables, where he acted alongside major stars and proved he could carry serious roles. Soon after, Bull Durham and Field of Dreams made him a fan favorite. These films were not just successful, they became cultural landmarks that people still talk about decades later. Then came Dances with Wolves in 1990, a film he directed and starred in, which won multiple Academy Awards and turned him into one of the most respected figures in the industry. Success at that level changes everything. Suddenly, there are more interviews, more travel, more pressure, and higher expectations. For Annie and her siblings, this meant growing up in a home where their father was admired by millions, but physically absent for long stretches of time. Fame can bring comfort and financial security, but it can also create distance inside a family. Annie has suggested in interviews that while her father loved his children deeply, his career demanded enormous energy. Film shoots lasted months. Promotions required international travel. Every new project carried financial risk and public scrutiny. As a child, It can be confusing to see your parents celebrated everywhere yet missing from daily routines. At the same time, Costner's first marriage to Cindy Silva began to feel the strain of his growing stardom. Married in 1978 before he became famous, Cindy supported him during his early struggles. But as his career accelerated, the balance in their relationship shifted. By 1994, after 16 years of marriage, they divorced in one of Hollywood's most expensive settlements at the time. For Annie, who was around 10 years old when the separation was announced, that period likely felt unstable. Children often sense tension long before adults openly discuss it. Although both parents tried to maintain respect and stability, divorce is never simple, especially when it plays out in public. The attention from media only adds pressure. After the divorce, Kevin's career faced ups and downs. Films like Waterworld and The Postman were criticized and labeled financial disappointments. The media shifted from praising him to questioning his decisions. This public change in tone can affect not only the celebrity but also their family. Annie witnessed both the high praise and the harsh criticism directed at her father. Growing up in that environment teaches resilience, but it can also create internal pressure to be strong at all times. Annie's recent comments about dealing with emotional stress in her 40s suggest that carrying responsibility quietly for many years can eventually feel heavy. Her honesty shows that even when someone appears composed and successful, they may still be processing childhood experiences shaped by fame, divorce, and public judgment. Reply next to continue with the next section, where we explore Kevin Costner's second marriage, the recent divorce, and how it reshaped the entire family dynamic. Kevin Costner's second long marriage to Christine Baumgartner seemed for many years like a fresh start and a more stable chapter in his personal life. They married in 2004 at his ranch in Aspen after dating for several years, and together they built a family with 3 children. By that time, Costner was older and had already experienced both extreme success and painful setbacks in Hollywood. He often spoke about how becoming a father again in his 50s changed his outlook. He said he felt more patient, more aware of time, and more focused on being present. From the outside, their life looked balanced. They split time between Colorado and California, tried to keep their children away from too much media exposure, and appeared united at public events. When Costner experienced a major career comeback through the television series Yellowstone in 2018, the renewed attention placed him back at the center of pop culture. The show became extremely popular and introduced him to a younger generation. With this resurgence came intense filming schedules, business negotiations, and constant press coverage. While success returned, so did the pressures that often come with it. In 2023, Christine filed for divorce after 18 years of marriage, and the announcement surprised many fans. Unlike quiet separations in the past, this divorce became highly public because of disagreements about child support and property arrangements. Media outlets closely followed court hearings, reporting detailed financial figures and legal arguments. For any family, especially one with children, such public coverage can be stressful. Even though Annie is an adult and from Kevin's first marriage, she still witnessed another major shift in her father's life. Watching a parent go through repeated public relationship struggles can affect how a person views stability and long-term commitment. Annie has not publicly criticized either parent, but her recent openness about feeling overwhelmed suggests that life events within a family accumulate over time. When she described needing to step away and travel to France, it was not just about work stress. It may also have reflected years of living inside a high-profile environment where private matters easily become public discussion. Her trip allowed her to slow down and gain clarity, something she may not have experienced often while growing up around cameras and headlines. Interestingly, Annie has also spoken positively about her father's work ethic and dedication. She described him as someone who pushed her to think independently and to pursue meaningful projects rather than fame for its own sake. That influence is visible in her career choices. Instead of seeking attention as an actress in major blockbusters, she focused on documentary filmmaking and environmental storytelling. This suggests that while fame shaped her upbringing, it did not define her goals. The recent divorce, however, reminded the public that even experienced celebrities struggle to balance ambition and family life. For Kevin, it meant reassessing priorities once again. For Annie, it may have reinforced the importance of emotional health and self-reflection. Her decision to speak honestly about her own mental challenges, rather than repeating polished public statements, gave fans a rare glimpse into the human side of a famous family. Reply next to continue with a final section, where we bring everything together and examine what Annie's words reveal about Kevin Costner beyond the spotlight. When Annie Costner finally shared her thoughts about her personal struggles, many people expected something dramatic because of the headlines that surrounded her father's divorce. Instead, what she offered was something quieter, but possibly more meaningful. She did not reveal a hidden scandal, accuse anyone of wrongdoing, or describe explosive family secrets. What she did was speak honestly about feeling lost for a period of time and needing space to rediscover herself. In today's world, where celebrity stories are often built around shock value, her calm honesty stood out. She described reaching her 40s and feeling emotional pressure build up slowly. It was not tied to one event, but rather to years of responsibility, expectations, and constant movement. Growing up in a famous household can create an unspoken need to appear strong and capable at all times. Annie had built a respected career as a producer and director, often working on thoughtful projects, especially in environmental storytelling. She had support, stability, and professional success. Yet she admitted that even with those advantages, she felt overwhelmed and unsure about her direction. Her decision to travel to France was simple but powerful. By stepping away from her usual environment, she allowed herself to breathe without deadlines or outside opinions. She later explained that the trip helped her reconnect with who she was, separate from work and family identity. When she returned, she felt renewed energy and confidence. Her words indirectly reflect something about Kevin Costner as well. Despite public divorces and career controversies, his children continue to speak about him with respect. Annie has consistently described her father as someone who values family and encourages independence. She mentioned that he treated her as a professional equal when they worked together, trusting her ideas rather than overshadowing her. That detail reveals a side of him that audiences rarely see. While headlines often focus on financial disputes or film budgets, inside the family, he appears to have supported his children's ambitions without forcing them into a shadow. Annie's openness also highlights a broader lesson. Fame does not remove normal human struggles. Wealth does not protect someone from self-doubt. Even families who appear glamorous from the outside experience the same emotional cycles as anyone else. By speaking calmly and honestly about her midlife challenges, Annie shifted the conversation away from scandal and toward growth. Instead of shocking people with secrets, she surprised them with vulnerability. That kind of honesty can sometimes be more powerful than dramatic revelations. For Kevin Costner, this moment represents another turning point. After decades of public highs and lows, the focus briefly moved from his career to the emotional strength of his family. His daughter's words remind audiences that behind every famous figure is a network of real relationships shaped by love, mistakes, learning, and resilience. In the end, Annie's message was not about exposing her father, but about understanding herself. And in doing so, she gave fans a more human picture of the Costner family, one built not only on Hollywood history but also on reflection, growth, and the courage to admit when you need a reset. To fully understand why Annie Costner's words resonated with so many people, it helps to step back and look at the larger pattern of Kevin Costner's life. His story has always been one of strong rises followed by difficult falls, both professionally and personally. In Hollywood, he experienced the highest level of respect when he directed and starred in Dances with Wolves, winning Academy Awards and becoming a symbol of serious filmmaking. Later, he faced heavy criticism when projects like Waterworld and The Postman were labeled as financial disappointments. Then, years later, he rebuilt his image through television success. This repeated cycle of building, losing, and rebuilding can shape a person's personality and the atmosphere inside their home. Children who grow up around that type of pressure often learn to adapt quickly. They see how public opinion can change overnight. They observe how success does not guarantee peace. Annie likely absorbed these lessons from a young age. While Kevin worked hard to protect his family's privacy, he could not fully shield them from the reality of his fame. Media headlines, interviews, and public speculation are part of celebrity life. When his recent divorce became highly public, it once again placed the family under scrutiny. Even though Annie is an adult with her own life, public conversations about a parent can still feel personal. Her decision to focus on emotional honesty rather than controversy may reflect a desire to break that pattern of drama. Instead of adding fuel to media speculation, she chose reflection. That choice speaks volumes about her character. It suggests that growing up around high visibility taught her the value of calm communication. It also shows that she views mental and emotional health as important topics worth discussing openly. In recent years, conversations about burnout, stress, and midlife uncertainty have become more common. Annie's statement fits into that broader cultural shift. By acknowledging that she felt overwhelmed despite having privilege and opportunity, she normalized those feelings for others. She showed that success does not erase self-doubt. Her father's example may have influenced that perspective. Kevin Costner has often taken creative risks, investing his own money into passion projects and returning to filmmaking even when critics doubted him. That willingness to continue forward after setbacks might have inspired Annie to trust her instincts and take her own restorative journey. The image of her traveling through France, walking through quiet towns and cultural landmarks, symbolizes stepping outside the noise. In a family often surrounded by attention, choosing silence and reflection becomes powerful. For Kevin, watching his daughter speak with maturity and honesty may be one of his proudest moments, even more meaningful than awards or box office numbers. Ultimately, Annie's openness did not shock people with scandal. It surprised them with sincerity. In a world that often expects celebrity families to reveal secrets or conflicts, she offered something different: perspective. Through her words, audiences saw that the Costner family, despite fame and fortune, faces the same emotional waves that any family does. And perhaps that is the most important revelation of all. As time moves forward, the story of Kevin Costner and his daughter Annie continues to evolve, not as a dramatic Hollywood scandal, but as a reflection of how families grow through change. Kevin is now in a different stage of life than when Annie was a child watching him build his career. He has experienced early struggle, massive success, painful criticism, expensive divorces, and a major comeback in television and film. Each chapter brought lessons, and those lessons shaped not only him, but also his children. Annie, now an accomplished filmmaker in her own right, represents a quieter kind of legacy. She did not inherit her father's spotlight in the traditional way. Instead, she built her own path with patience and intention. That decision alone says something important about the values she grew up with. Rather than chasing fame, she chose purpose. Rather than using her father's name for easy publicity, she developed her own voice behind the camera. Her recent honesty about feeling overwhelmed shows that maturity does not mean perfection. It means recognizing when you need to pause. For Kevin, life after divorce and career conflict has required similar reflection. He invested heavily in his film project Horizon, taking financial risks and creative control into his own hands. That move shows he is still driven and still willing to fight for stories he believes in. At the same time, he has spoken about prioritizing his younger children and adjusting his schedule. The image that emerges is not of a flawless hero or a fallen star, but of a man continuously adapting. Annie's words add depth to that image. By sharing her emotional reset, she indirectly confirmed that even in a famous family, growth happens through struggle. She did not criticize her father. She did not glorify him unrealistically either. Instead, she presented a balanced view, a hardworking parent who encouraged independence and valued family, even while navigating complicated personal choices. That balance makes her perspective believable. It reminds audiences that real life is rarely black and white. Public figures are often reduced to headlines about success or failure. But behind those headlines are years of relationships, conversations, sacrifices, and private moments that shape who they become. Annie's openness allowed people to see that dimension. In the end, what shocked some viewers was not scandal but authenticity. Her willingness to admit confusion, burnout, and renewal felt relatable. It shifted attention away from courtroom numbers and tabloid speculation and towards something more human. For fans who followed Kevin Costner's career for decades, this chapter adds emotional context. It shows that beyond awards and controversies, his most lasting impact may be seen in the grounded and thoughtful adults his children have become. Annie's story is still being written, just like her father's. And perhaps the most meaningful part of this entire narrative is not about Hollywood at all. It is about resilience, self-awareness, and the courage to step back when life feels overwhelming. In sharing that lesson, Annie offered a quiet but powerful reminder that even in families touched by fame, the journey toward understanding oneself never truly ends. In the months following her heartfelt comments, many people began to look at both Kevin Costner and his daughter Annie in a new light. The noise around divorce settlements, legal arguments, and media speculation slowly faded into the background, and what remained was something much more meaningful: the story of a family learning how to adjust to change. For decades, Kevin Costner has been known as a strong, steady presence on screen. From powerful Western roles to dramatic love stories, he often plays characters who carry quiet strength and deep emotion. But real life does not follow a script. The challenges he faced in recent years, especially during his high-profile divorce and his decision to step away from the hit television series Yellowstone, showed a different side of him. He was no longer just the confident movie star. He was a father navigating complicated family dynamics while also making risky career choices. Annie's voice entered this moment at an important time.